The Ironclad's last stand. In the vast reaches of the galaxy, the Galactic Empire had reigned supreme for centuries. Its fleets, massive and awe-inspiring, struck terror in the hearts of all who dared oppose them. They wielded the most advanced technology ever devised, their ships a shining testament to the power of the Empire. To the Empire, the idea of any resistance was laughable, especially the humans, who they had long considered an insignificant species, barely worth acknowledging. But deep in the heart of the human colonies, there was a symbol of defiance, an old battleship that had survived the ravages of time. The Ironclad, a colossal relic of an age long past, was as much a symbol of human ingenuity and perseverance as it was a testament to the will of its crew. The Ironclad was no match for the Empire's modern armadas in terms of technology, but the heart of its crew made it a force to be reckoned with. Captain Elias Ironfist Kane, the ship's commander, was no stranger to adversity. In his youth, he had watched the rise of the Empire, the fall of countless colonies, and the slow crumbling of humanity's independence. But with the Ironclad under his command, he had survived every assault, every ambush, and every attempt by the Empire to snuff out the flames of rebellion. Admiral Elias Kane stood alone in the observation deck of the Ironclad, his gaze locked on the distant stars. The battle had not yet begun, but the feeling of inevitability loomed over him. It was as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Kane's face, weathered by years of battle, held a grim expression. The Ironclad was old, her systems obsolete by Empire standards. Her shields, barely functional, would not withstand a full assault from the Empire's fleet. But Kane had something far more valuable than technology. He had experience, and more importantly, he had the loyalty and courage of his crew. "Admiral," said Commander Lila Ford, his second-in-command, her voice breaking the silence. "The enemy fleet is on its way. Their sensors show a full armada, at least 50 ships. It's going to be a hell of a fight." Kane turned to face her, his expression unwavering. "We've fought bigger battles and lived. I've seen more odds stacked against us than I can count. We've come this far because we never give up. The Empire may have the numbers, but we've got something they'll never understand: resolve." Ford nodded, her eyes sparkling with quiet defiance. "We're ready, sir. The crew's been working round the clock to get the ship back into fighting shape. The Ironclad might be old, but she's not out yet." Kane smiled faintly. "Good. Prepare the crew. This is our last stand. Let's show the Empire what it means to underestimate us." The Empire's fleet arrived in the system with all the elegance and efficiency expected of a force so vast. Ships as large as city blocks loomed on the horizon, and their weaponry hummed with barely contained power. The vast Imperial ships were sleek, with towering structures bristling with weaponry, their engines pulsating with the might of civilization's most destructive power. To them, the Ironclad, old, hulking, and scarred from years of battle, was nothing more than a footnote, a nuisance to be disposed of quickly. On the other side, the Ironclad emerged from the dark asteroid belt where it had been hiding, its thrusters roaring to life as the ship broke free from the dense field of floating rocks. The ship's metal skin gleamed under the distant star's light, revealing the many scars it had earned in countless battles. The Imperial fleet's commander, General Vorn of the Empire's 7th Legion, watched the Ironclad with disdain. A laugh escaped his lips as he turned to his crew. "Is this really the best they can muster? An old, rusted relic of a time long gone. They won't last 5 minutes." But Kane was not intimidated. His voice came across the comms, steady and confident. "You may laugh now, but in 5 minutes, you won't be smiling. I promise you that." As the battle began, the first shots were fired, and the stars lit up with flashes of energy. The Ironclad's cannons fired first, unleashing a barrage of powerful laser blasts that hit the nearest Imperial warship, the Stalwart. The Empire's ships were faster, sleeker, but the Ironclad's cannons had a raw power that could still tear through armor. "Direct hit, Admiral," Ford shouted, her voice filled with excitement. "Shields down on their lead ship. We've cracked their hull." Kane's eyes burned with determination. "Good. Now we make them regret underestimating us. Target their engines next." The crew of the Ironclad worked in seamless unity, their long experience on the ship making them a force far more effective than any number of advanced Imperial tech. They fired with precision, hitting the stalwart again and again. The Imperial ship's shields flickered and failed as the old battleship surged forward, moving with surprising speed despite its bulk. Vorn cursed as he watched the damage reports flood in. How is this happening? That ship shouldn't be able to do that. His ship's tactical officer scanned the data. Their firepower's not as strong as ours, sir, but they're hitting us with more accuracy than we thought possible. Vorn slammed his fist on the console. They're fighting like they have nothing to lose. Do not let them escape. All ships move in. The Empire's fleet closed in on the Ironclad, surrounding it with a ring of deadly ships. The battle raged in the cold vacuum of space, with laser fire lighting up the void like stars exploding. The Ironclad took hit after hit, but its thick armor held, and the crew, led by Kane's indomitable will, kept firing. In the heart of the storm, Kane stood at the bridge, his hands gripping the console as his crew moved with practiced precision. Lieutenant Alex Mercer, the ship's chief engineer, was constantly barking orders to keep the power running smoothly. "We're down to 30% power on our starboard side, Admiral," Mercer reported. "The engines are overloading, and the power cores are unstable." Kane clenched his jaw, his thoughts moving quickly. Increase power to the starboard shields. Push the engines harder, just a little longer. We need to hold out. Ford looked at him, concern in her eyes. "Admiral, if we push any harder, we risk a meltdown. The reactors won't last." Kane didn't flinch. "Then we fight until we can't fight anymore. That's what we came here to do." The Ironclad returned fire, blasting another Imperial destroyer into oblivion. But the sheer number of enemy ships kept pushing them back. The battle was a desperate dance of evasion and retaliation. Every shot that hit the Ironclad seemed to leave a scar, but the ship held strong. Then, the Empire's flagship, the Tempest, entered the fray. The largest ship in their fleet, its presence alone seemed to tilt the scales in the Empire's favor. The Tempest was a beast, bristling with weapons, and nearly impervious to attack. If the Ironclad could not take it down, it would be the end of them all. Kane stared at the advancing Tempest, calculating his next move. The odds were astronomical, but if there was one thing the Ironclad had taught him, it was that nothing was impossible. "Focus all fire on the Tempest," Kane ordered. "We need to take down their shields. Full power to the forward guns." The Ironclad charged straight at the massive Imperial flagship, unleashing a barrage of firepower in a desperate attempt to crack its defenses. The Tempest retaliated with lasers that tore into the Ironclad, shaking the ship violently. Yet, with each blow, the Ironclad held its course, relentless. "Shields at 15%, Admiral," Mercer shouted. "We can't take much more." Kane gritted his teeth. "We don't have the luxury of running. Prepare for boarding action." The crew launched their final, desperate gambit. Boarding pods, filled with elite soldiers, rocketed toward the Tempest. The first pod struck the Tempest's hull, their explosive force creating massive breaches in the Imperial ship's defenses. Kane watched as human soldiers stormed onto the flagship, clashing with the Imperial forces in hand-to-hand combat. Explosions rang out, and the Tempest was thrown into chaos. Within moments, Kane's forces had infiltrated the command deck. "We've taken their command center," Ford shouted over the comms. Kane exhaled, watching as the flagship slowly came to a halt. "This battle is ours," he murmured. The Empire's fleet, shattered and demoralized, began to retreat. One by one, the remaining Imperial ships disengaged, fleeing into the darkness of space. The Ironclad, though battered and barely holding together, had won. "We did it," Ford said, her voice filled with disbelief. "We did," Kane replied, his voice thick with pride. "This is a first step, but the war's not over yet." As the Ironclad drifted through the wreckage, the crew of a human battleship stood tall, their resolve unbroken. They had defeated the Empire against impossible odds. The Ironclad had shown that the strength of a battle wasn't just about the ships or the weapons, but about the courage, spirit, and will of those who fought within them. Thanks for watching the video. Please subscribe the channel for more stories